Hi everyone, this is Ibrahim Shishobor, and I'm making this video because I saw there's a channel I'm subscribed to and had a video about Sam Harris, and he had a talk and an interview on a show, and Kyle Kulinski from the show Secular Talk took this video and started talking about it. And I really respect Kyle, and I like Secular Talk. I'm one of its fans. I usually try to watch his videos, but Kyle is a really, really smart guy. I encourage you to watch his videos and follow what he says. And I wanted to, when I saw this video from Sam Harris, there were so many things that came to my mind, so many arguments that came to my mind, why he is wrong, and what the points that he makes, the conclusion, in just the 2 or 3 minutes that Kyle shows. I mean, I haven't watched the whole interview, and I'm going to watch it, and I just saw this today, and I really thought I had to make something about this, and I really had to show my support, because I read the comments, and there were some people who criticized Kyle for stating what he said, and it's okay, you can have your views, but the thing that strikes me the most is he gives such great argument, and let's just say he gives such a great argument about what Harris is saying. It is so wrong. If you give the weapons that Israelis have into the hands of the Palestinians, then they would have committed genocide and destroyed them by now. If you completely reverse the situation, just as Kyle said, and I'm going to use Kyle's logic here, because the same things about what he said, I mean, this logic is wrong on so many different levels. The few points that he makes about how, in reverse, they would have committed suicide by now because of Islamic doctrine, and because of what they say is in their protocol, in the Hamas protocol, what it says about destroying all of Israel. And another part is that when he talks about how are Israelis supposed to negotiate with these people? How do you negotiate with such an ideology? Well, first of all, Kyle makes a great point about how if you're going to reverse it the whole way. Why just right now? And this is exactly right, and it completely destroys any debate, any argument that Sam Harris may have. And I hope Sam Harris may never see me or hear my videos, but I think he can answer Kyle. I think he knows. He may have known about the argument that Kyle brings up. It is so obvious. You can't just say that reverse them now. Of course, this would happen, or of course. They're going to try to avenge vengeance on them and try to empty the hatred they had and try to kind of make up for all the violence and all the discrimination that the Israelis have done against them. So I'd like to say that another point that Kyle makes is really great, and I mean I was really glad Kyle said, because these points that Kyle makes, they were exploding when I was listening to his the conversation he had with the program, and I don't know the name of the interviewer, but my head was exploding with these questions of what kind of rationality is this that he makes, that just reverse them right now, and what you see. And one of the things is that the U.S., which is Israelis' most aggressive backer and protector, and it is only because of the U.S. that Israeli can do what it is doing right now. The U.S., all in all, is a democracy that the government has to respond to the people. And if the Israelis committed genocide right now, do you think the Israelis are like, when you say, I'll get to this later, but just to finish this, that do you think that Israelis committed genocide, wanted to kill anymore? Do you think that the U.S. has to give answers to its people and the U.S. citizens about its protection the protection that it gives to Israel, about all the money it funnels into Israeli economy and military and everything else. So the U.S., because Israel cannot do many things, because first of all the whole international scene has changed. You can't just kill anyone and expect not to have a retaliation by the international community. So maybe it was 100 years ago. Look at all the people who do genocide and do all these things. Israel calls itself a democracy, a progressive nation, and so on. It calls itself that we're not radicalists and things like this. If it commits these acts, then it debunks its whole, the very, very, very simple and very thin threads of respectability that it still has in the international scene. So it's not a question of motives and whether they don't like to do it. There is a very, very fundamental and logistic and rational, legitimate reason why they don't do it. So you can't just say, see, they don't do it, so they don't like doing it. This is the kind of rationality that Mr. Sam Harris and people like Sam Harris use. This is the conclusion that he's reaching here. And another thing that I like to talk about is that there's a difference when you've been occupied. Why do you think another part that Sam Harris, another point of argument that he makes is that he says it in other talks that he had that I've seen, and he calls it the fundamental Islamic, and I've talked about these things in other videos, but he calls it the fundamental Islamic ideology that is the root. Islam says kill the Jews, so that's why they're killing them. I think it's a waste of words to stress that the single most important major reason why the Palestinians and the Hamas and whatever act in this aggressive, hateful way towards the Israelis is because they believe that they've been occupied. Their land has been taken from them. Before Israel came and the Israeli settlers came and the British gave this part of land to the Israelis, and this is, there's so many aspects of this object, and they're so obvious, I don't know where to start. Before they came, did the Palestinians do any harm? Did they have this kind of hate against the Israelis and the Jews? Did they have the Jews and all? No, let's forget there was no Israel then. Did they have this kind of hate? Then why were they like this? Do the other Muslim communities hate the Israelis as much as they hate the Palestinians hate the Israelis? Do the Islamic nations and the Muslims hate the Jew, every Jew, even Norman Finkelstein or like Noam Chomsky or Max Blumenthal or anyone else who criticizes Israel? Do they hate them just like they hate Netanyahu? Because if that's the case, then you're right. It's because it's either racism or it's because of religion. It has nothing to do with geopolitical notions and motives. But if they don't, then you're wrong, Sam Harris. As I think, in my view, you're wrong on almost every single thing that you say and every point that you make. And that is not a criticism. I'm not trying to bash you. It is my view on it, and maybe I'm wrong. So that's why I'm so enthusiastic about hearing your views on my opinions. And the next one I'm going to say is that Mr. Harris and another guy who's very much atheist, pro-Israeli atheist, Bill Maher, he's biased toward Israel. They talk about religious fundamentalism. What is the main reason that the Israelis have that they, for coming to this land, for wanting it, for trying to take it for themselves? What is the main reason? They believe that this is their holy land given to them by God, and they have destroyed and killed and spilled blood and started wars for disbelief. They don't just say, oh, this is the part of the earth that I just fell upon and let's just have it because it's my home. No. The fundamental reasoning is that this is their holy land, given to them by God. It has been promised to them. This is the promised land. That is the most fundamental idea. And anyone who's there, we have to kill and destroy because this is our land. The land itself is precious. And this, if not the most radical religious ideology, is certainly among those at the top. At least in my view it is. Or maybe people like Bill Maher and Sam Harris would like to give me examples of where in ideology there is a notion more radical than this. That this is our land. No one has the right. This is our rightful. This is where we have to live and not anyone else. If we can help it. If we can't, well, let's. But from what we can help it, we would hate it. It is the very teachings of what they believe. I don't believe this is what Judaism in its core has said, but the Israeli government and the Israelis' reading of Judaism says that this is our land, and if we could have it all to themselves and no one in, that would be the most ideal case scenario. But since we can't, we'll let Palestinians and some other minorities live, at least for the moment, and try to act like it doesn't matter and we're happy with them living alongside us. But all in all, this is such a fundamental radical thinking that I don't know how anyone who says such things against other religions and sees them all as so much, and sees all as black aspects and dark aspects of every religion, at least from his point of view, and the smaller, oh, this is radicalism. The smallest one, oh, this is radical, fundamental Christian, Islamic, Buddhism. But then when it comes to the actions of the Israeli government, and the core, as I said, is this land is ours for the taking, promised to us by God. And whatever means are necessary, if we have them, we will use them to take them. Right or wrong does not matter. The only right that exists here is our right to own this land, promised to us by God. And Sam Harris and Bill Maher are okay with it. They say, they don't even bring up the subject. How many times have you heard Bill Maher or Sam Harris, or I don't know if any other atheist, pro-Israeli atheist, bring up this subject? You don't believe in God. How can you believe in ideology, support an ideology that says this God has given me this land? I have a right to kill those who try to stop me from taking it. This is an important point. And of course, they use another argument that we live here, I don't know how many thousands of years ago or whatever. If you're going to place and legitimize motives on this, then anyone can go. Many people can go to many places and say, "Hey, I used to live here, and I'm going to start killing and taking your land because my ancestors live here, like maybe 200 years ago, 500 years ago." So that doesn't make sense. And I'd like to say that, and another point that he makes, they're occupied. They don't have the weapons the Israelis have. Listen, Islam doctrine doesn't say that if you can attack them and defeat them normally. No. The ideal strategy for winning any war is to wrap a bomb around yourself and start and then run into the civilians or the militants or whatever. This is not the ideal way of strategy that Islam believes in. They have no other means. They have to go past if they do it. And I'm not trying to say that I'm for these things. Islam does not believe suicidal killings, at least what I've heard. So I'm against these things. I believe that it is against my belief that these suicidal bombings, these are completely wrong, especially done to any civilian areas. There is no debate here, okay? But try to say that as Kyle makes a point, to say that someone killing with a gun and taking the gun and shooting 50 people, it's acceptable, but someone who like grabs a bomb and jumps into like 50, I'm talking military here, we're military personnel or anyone else, or it doesn't matter, civilians taking a gun and kicking a bomb and killing by dropping a bomb by plane and killing 50 civilians. That is more humane, that is legitimate, that is okay, that is acceptable. But taking a bomb and killing yourself in the act of killing like 50 civilians or military people or anything, this is unhuman. That's double standards. Why? What is this thing about having bombs? If there's anything, there's much more courage in this. But I don't want to talk about which one is better and which one is worse. It's not important here, at least in this topic, in this debate. So don't judge me. Don't start thinking about what I said. There's another interview, this hasn't been made in another video where I'll talk about it. I'll give you my views about it. But in the basic, fundamental sense, you can say that this soldier is good, and this guy, this in his way, and this other soldier who fights in this way, he's bad, he's inhuman. He doesn't have anything else. There is no other way that he can use. When they throw rocks, if you're trying to compare these things, when they come with guns and they come with rocks, do you try to demonize the ones they come with guns? No. When have you ever heard Sam Harris talk about these things? When have you heard Bill Maher talk about these things? They don't talk about these things. I don't know. Are they on the payroll of the Israeli lobby or whatever? I just don't realize. I can't understand. There is too much contradiction here for someone to be pro-Israel and a true atheist. It doesn't make sense. Pro-Israeli in this sense. And so there's a lot of more points I'd like to make on this view, but Kyle Kulinski has made a great debate, and I urge you to watch it. It gives all the answers, and I'm really amazed about there's some people who I don't even want to go into the classic and cliche stereotype. The Likud Charter also calls for the death of all Palestinians and things like this, and all the things that Netanyahu has said that about that there will never be a Palestinian state, and things, especially during the last election, and so many things. It's just, I'm not saying the Palestinians are good. I don't want to go. I don't want to be pro anybody here. Not the jihadi, not the killers, not the Israelis, not the Palestinians. I just want to say, I just want to say that it doesn't make sense. Bill Maher's and Sam Harris doesn't make sense. It's all contradictions. They don't make sense with each other. Either you're an atheist, then if you're an atheist, then you cannot back someone's claim that this is mine because God gave it to me. You just can't be supportive of such a claim. But of course, Sam Harris doesn't talk about it this way. He's trying to just say that, if I was him, and I think it was the only way he can start taking another different stance on this debate and this issue is saying, I'm not saying that the Israelis' claims are right. I'm saying that the way that they fight like this, this is wrong, this is better than this one, and this is more inhumane than this one, and this one is more violent, or whatever, this one. But even if you're going to talk about, which is again so wrong, considering the deaths that they have been about between this, as Kyle said, with all the different, extremely sophisticated military equipment that the Israelis have, what is the percent of the civilians that they've killed, and what is the percent, and all in all, how many people have the Palestinians killed? So, and just getting this, even if you're right, please be man enough to say that, of course, the Israelis don't have a right to be there, because saying that this is our land, making a claim, I as an atheist, this is what Samuel said. After everything's said and done, the Palestinians are the most barbaric, inhumane, civilizing people that have ever roamed the earth. This is all right, but in the fundamental issue of whether Israel should even, and there should be a country called Israel and a people called the Israelis, an atheist cannot believe in such a thing. An atheist cannot support a claim that says, this is mine because God gave it to me. So please be man enough, be brave enough, Mr. Harris, Mr. Mark. So start bashing and demonizing every Palestinian, every Muslim, and every anti-Israeli human being on the planet. But at the end of the day, of course, even though everyone who's against Israel and Israeli strategy and the way Israeli people fight is wrong, and anybody who fights the Israelis or criticizes Israel, he is doing the worst thing in the world, because his means are this: they kill themselves and they kill Israelis. But all in all, just in the end, to be man enough to say that I, as an atheist, do not believe that you can claim something to be yours because God gave it to you. So, and if you make this simple statement, this 5 or 6 word sentence means that, in your view, Israel should not exist. Israel should not exist. So this was my video, and I'm sorry to have maybe bored you because I know if you watch Kyle's video, most of the things that were said would have been the same. I'd like to thank Kyle for making this video, and I really enjoyed watching it, and I hope that if you see this and enjoy it, I hope you will share it. And thanks for watching, and I really like to hear your comments, and goodbye.